e/myAA.
Dry tonight with a mix of cloud and clear spells. There's also a chance of some fog, mainly in parts of Munster. Lowest temperatures 6 to 9 degrees. And now you're up to date on News Talk.
Off the ball. This is News Talk.
All right, you're very welcome along. It is Thursday evening. It's Off the Ball, and it's Nathan with you until 10 o'clock. Hope you're all keeping well. Thanks for tuning in. 53106 is the text number. We got a busy show ahead. In just a few minutes' time, we're going to hear from Shane Lowry, the Open champion. Obviously, should have been this week at Augusta National. We should be sitting down watching the Masters, the Azaleas. But unfortunately, we're not. And Shane Lowry should be there being introduced as the Open champion. He will have to wait until later in the year, hopefully, to get that honour. And obviously, he's going to have to wait until 2021 to hand back the Claret Jug with the Open Championship cancelled. We'll talk about that and also about life in Florida, because he is still over in Florida on lockdown with his family, and we'll talk about how he is dealing with the current crisis. So Shane Lowry, really interesting, coming up in just a few minutes' time. After 8 o'clock, Cora Staunton is back home. She was in Australia playing in the women's AFL. That season was cancelled, and she's managed to get herself back to Mayo, so we'll check in with Cora Staunton as well. And on the football show, a little bit later than usual, John Giles with us just after 9 o'clock. He will talk to us about the change in Republic of Ireland manager Stephen Kenny up in front of the media. He too was taking on a Zoom session, so we'll hear from Stephen Kenny from that in just a little while. John will give us his thoughts on that. And continuing on from previous weeks, there was some controversy about his Liverpool selection. He didn't pick Wayne Rooney in his Manchester United selection. So who is John Giles going to pick in his all-time Spurs 11? That is coming up on the football show just after 9 o'clock. Richie McCormack is on the line. Evening, Richie.
Hey, Nathan. You well?
I'm all right. You hanging in there?
I was wondering more so, are you hanging in there given the day that should be in it today, as you mentioned there at the top, and isn't actually happening? Like this should be your Christmas morning in sporting terms this afternoon and this evening, and it's been snatched from your arms. It's like somebody has dangled the present in front of you on Christmas morning and then gone, no, you don't get to open this now, not till November.
I need to be careful what I say, Richie, because today, Richie, is my 10-year wedding anniversary. So I can't in any way say that I'm disappointed by the day that is in it.
Today's a great day. All
that's really happened is I've avoided the now yearly argument of, will we go out for dinner on Friday night? Maybe we'll go early for dinner. And no, we won't go for a drink after. We'll just go straight home so we can maybe sit and watch the golf for a little while. So at least that has been avoided. Every single year, without fail, my wedding anniversary clashes with the Masters.
You're probably like me. You have one of these memories. Obviously, it's imposed in some respects because you've got the wedding anniversary with this. I've got one of these memories whereby every single major moment in life is attached to a sporting memory, like good or bad. So like my communion, for instance, will only ever remind me of the 1990 FA Cup final because Palace and United was on the same day. And I remember listening to it on the radios. We were going to visit my granny on the same day and all this kind of stuff as well. At the same time, I think my confirmation was on the same time as the Rugby World Cup in 95. So maybe the final was on that day. I'm not too sure, but either way, the 95 World Cup I always associate with my confirmation. My sister's wedding was on the same day as the Champions League final when Inter and Bayern met that year at the Bernabeu. So like, there's loads of different bits and pieces that are always attached to certain days. So I think there's more than just yourself are locked down to certain sporting and life moments.
Yeah. So it'll be a quiet anniversary. We're going to watch the 1986 Masters final round once I get home. No, we're not.
You're not.
Under no circumstances, I was told, will that be happening. Yeah.
So you're like getting like YouTube on the big screen.
It'll just be like every other day.
Yeah. Well, where you're trying to watch golf and yourself and saying no.
Pretty much.
Yeah. Okay.
Pretty much.
Okay.
So Stephen Kenny. Actually, do you know what I might watch tonight, Richie? Were you at Radiohead in Punchestown?
No, I wasn't actually. I wasn't able to get a ticket that time. I was just gone 18 when that gig happened, and my job in Argos at the time didn't exactly render me flush with cash, much like now. So I wasn't able to get a ticket at the time because I think they were, for me anyway, a bit pricey. But yeah, because I'd gone to, that was 2000, wasn't it? So I would have had a witness ticket for the August Bank Holiday weekend. So doing the two would have been out of my realm. So Radiohead unfortunately had to fall by the wayside. But my good friend Barry was there and says, like, he still eulogises about it to this day. He says it was incredible.
One of the greatest gigs I was ever at. and so Radiohead are streaming it tonight on YouTube at 10 o'clock. I think they're doing a gig a night, so I think that's what I'll spend the evening watching, reminiscing.
That's class. Metallica have a Slain gig of theirs from a year or two ago up online as well. So the Irish gigs have actually been fairly spoiled upon by the big bands over the last couple of weeks during this lockdown.
Talk to me when Robbie Williams puts Slain up on YouTube, and I'll come back to you, Richie.
Well, anytime we want to see you at a Robbie Williams gig, we absolutely can. We just have to look at the video for Strong, and there you are.
Listen, Richie, we're very short in time because we've got to get to Shane Lowry, but before that, we need to hear from Stephen Kenny. So we've had all sorts of fancy launches for Republic of Ireland managers. Stephen Kenny's was a bit different. He had a Zoom press conference for all the journalists. So let's hear a bit about what he had to say. Obviously, the one major talking point is about Robbie Keane not being part of the setup. Here's what Stephen Kenny had to say about that.
To be honest, I have the highest respect for Robbie Keane. You know, what he's achieved in his career has been incredible. I think anytime we don't know each other that well, anytime we've had conversation, we've gone on fine, going very well. But it's just that I want, as the manager, you must have the right to pick your own background team. And I think it's important sometimes in the roles that there's not blurred lines in the roles, and clearly defined roles are important. And I think that's what I learned from experience. I've learned that from my own personal experiences. And I think Keith Andrews has been my assistant for the last nearly a year and a half with the under-21s, and we've developed a strong relationship and a good rapport and a way of working together. And I think Damien Duff has come in, and I've obviously watched Damien's coaching career, but at Celtic he's played a pivotal role this year in the potential treble for them in terms of the role that he's played, and he's quite a creative, inventive training ground coach with great preparation and attention to detail and high work ethic. So I think he's Damien comes on board. So that's about selecting my own team, who I feel will complement each other.
From everything I've read and the bits I've listened, Richie, came across very well today, Stephen Kenny.
For anybody who may have felt like they were putting up with, say, the last couple of years, and maybe if you want to go back into the Trapattoni era as well, of Irish management and the style of play that we've seen, basically it would have been music to their ears from what Kenny was saying today, that they want to, and he has a conviction that he's going to play football in the right way, that he wants people to enjoy coming to the Aviva Stadium to see his teams playing. He said that he won't look he doesn't basically need people to have a massive long CV of games under their belts at specific clubs to actually force their way into his thinking in the international team. So there's a lot of he name checks Matt Doherty and John Egan as players who probably should have been in the Irish setup sooner than were actually given caps, and all of this stuff is just brilliant to hear from a new Irish manager, that he's coming in and it very much is a clean slate, and he's got the CV behind him to suggest that he's actually going to follow through with this stuff.
Yeah, and also handled it, I thought, really well in terms of one of the decisions he's going to have to make is around Matt Doherty and Seamus Coleman, and as you say, he mentioned name check John Egan and Matt Doherty as players who really should have far more caps than they have. And rather than being led down a path of, well, does that mean you feel Matt Doherty should be your first choice right back? He came back and said, well, actually, Matt Doherty can play left back. He can play in an advanced role on the right-hand side. So it's not him or Seamus Coleman. Other people have just been selected ahead of Matt Doherty in those other positions as well. So he's left himself open to potentially do that. Let's hear one other thing, because Damien Duff's introduction onto the scene, I think, has been one of the most fascinating parts of this and will become one of the most fascinating parts. Here's Stephen Kenny saying why he chose Duff to be part of his backroom team.
Damien done his pro licence this year. Well, he started at the bottom, going in under-15s with Shamrock Rovers, and then the under-15 international team as well. So he worked very, very hard for a long time. And he obviously did his pro licence this year with the FEI. And Niall O'Regan, the coach, the head of coach education, asked me to come in at times and be an observer. And Damien was selected by the group to go to Switzerland when the group went to Switzerland to put on a session for all the other people who were doing pro licenses in Europe, and he was the one selected from the Irish group to go and and put on that session for everyone. And you know, it was terrific. He was brilliant, and so he's a modern. The thing about Keith and Damien, very obviously with technology changing so rapidly, so the job is as well. It's becoming, you know, they're two modern thinking coaches who are, you know, both worked in club football and in the international setup. So Damien has had a really good that year in Celtic will be of huge benefit to him because they've had you know, good results in Europe this year, and he's had to adapt tactically to all of those games. So I feel that he'll be a very, very good addition.
Yeah, everything you hear about Damien Duff is that probably maybe a surprise to himself in some way that he really is an excellent coach and is going to bring a lot to the party. And it's been brilliant to hear Stephen Kenny. You can get pretty much all of this up on offtheball.com. Anyone I've spoken to who knows him well says this is a man who will have the courage of his convictions, and it would have been easy to come and try and play things down a little bit and lower expectations, but actually almost everything he's ever said when he was out of the job and not involved in any way in the FAI, he came out and said again today that actually there's a better way of doing things that I believe in, and I'm going to try and do it.
And it's the first time in a generation, essentially, that we've heard that, because going back to when Trapattoni was appointed, all we heard was, we don't have the players, we're going to have to implement this style of play, and the League of Ireland doesn't exist in Ireland, and all this kind of stuff. And even with Martin O'Neill, that we had to temper our expectations based on what he was saying. And this is the first time that I can remember that a manager's come in saying, we have decent players, I have a way of playing that I think can win games, let's go and see what we can achieve together. It's really, really uplifting.
All we need now are some matches.
Yeah, well,
we're tight in time because we want to get to Shane Lowry, and I'll get to your main couple of stories, but a text in from Carla Rathode. Lads, I watched the stream of John Giles earlier on. Won't give away any of the spoilers on his team selection, but suffice to say, I didn't like the Luca it.
all right,
See this on
okay.
there?
Yeah.
I don't know if give it away.
Can it just be a midfield of like 3 Glenn Hoddles? Because that would please me imminently. Like, that's
Well,
brilliant.
you'll be happy when you see the team then. Go on,
3
run
Glenn
us through a
Hoddles.
couple of things quickly there.
Southampton, one of Hoddle's ex-teams in terms of management, are the first Premier League club to confirm a deferral of pay by their players. Management and directors will also defer their next 3 months' wages to protect other jobs at the club. Southampton say they won't be making use of the British government's coronavirus job retention scheme. This, of course, follows the announcement of the Players Together initiative, which will directly help fund the NHS and its associated charities. The idea was spearheaded by Liverpool and Manchester United captains Jordan Henderson and Harry Maguire. They say cash will go towards enhancing the well-being of staff, volunteers and patients affected by COVID-19. And Republic of Ireland winger James McClain's donated his own money to help save a children's hospice in Stoke, currently plying his trade in the city. Staff at the Donna Louise Trust have confirmed that McClain, along with his teammate Joe Allen, have given a significant cash donation to the charity that provides help to children with life-limiting illnesses.
Yeah, it's incredible some of the stuff that James McClain has done over the past few weeks. Obviously, there's other things that probably end up gaining more attention, but it shouldn't take away from all the good that he does as well. Very much puts his money where his mouth is, James McClain. So, Richie, thanks a lot for that. It is a shorter than normal news round. One text in from the Walkinstown Beckenbauer. Lads, well done for keeping the show on the road. Started to watch the English Game. Very good. The bloke who plays Fergus Suter is Leighton Baines with a moustache. Have you watched this? It keeps coming up on my Netflix.
I haven't. Is it
a footballing Downton Abbey? I'm not quite sure.
Oh, God.
It's about the origins of the games. I've heard really mixed reviews, so maybe we'll watch it and do a review, potentially.
I'd worry. Well, you know, depending on how the next couple of weeks goes, it looks like we might have time.
All right, so John Giles on the way after 9 o'clock. Cora Staunton on the way after 8. But up next, we talk to the Open champion, Shane Lowry.
Off the ball.